Onyxcoin has broken out, and I wanted to provide an update on the state of what is happening because we have seen some pretty nice moves. We're seeing a little bit of a pullback right now, so I want to discuss what this could mean. Is this a bad thing? Is this a good thing? How does this look in the wider frame of Onyxcoin going to the moon, essentially? So I want to take a little bit of a look at that today. We will start taking a look at the Onyxcoin chart, but then I want to discuss a couple other things going on as to what we are seeing from the Onyxcoin team themselves, Onyx DAO, and then as well as some of the other things that are happening within the altcoin market that in my opinion are very, very good for us and potentially bringing some really great signs for the future. So we're going to go through all of those things today. First off, we will start taking a look at the Onyxcoin chart as mentioned, and we can see here a pretty nice move. Obviously we had this kind of textbook wedge forming, really strong breakout with gusto here. We could see respecting the fibs pretty clearly. We can see here coming down on a retrace. So we had this major pump going right up to the 0.382, and then we do a little bit of a retrace. We bounce off the 0.236, and then we can see another little bit of some resistance up at this 382 range. We pump all the way up to 0.5, and then now it does look like we might be seeing a little bit more of a retrace here down to the 382. And this, in my opinion, is all really, really good to see. Higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. Really strong indication that we are in a very strong uptrend and we are moving with pretty good pace up the ladder here. So this is all really good to see. We can see there is a little bit of a roadmap into where we could see in the future. First off, being here at the 0.618 is about the 2 cent range. We're getting very, very close. We actually have momentarily broken above 2 cents for a couple of different times here. Again, 2 cents being kind of that psychological point of resistance, kind of coinciding with that 0.5 fib level. So it is probably going to be a pretty decent kind of nut to crack. And then of course I've got that 618 as I mentioned. 786 is about the 2.4 cent range. And then we got that one up here at the recent highs that we saw up at the 2.7 cent range. After that, we can start to look forward to the fib extensions. Now we do have a bunch of different things going on here with the fib extensions, so we'll take a quick look. First one would be the 1618, that is 3.6 cents. Really, really nice moves, especially if you were accumulating down here in the lower end of this consolidation. We were seeing things close to about 1 cent. So this would be over 2x, almost 3x here, which would be a fantastic move, potentially over 3x depending on where you were kind of consolidating at in this consolidation period. The next thing we can see here is the 2618. That is over 5 cents. Again, another fantastic move to the upside here if we were to see that 2618. And then, of course, we got 3618 at the 6.6 cent range, and then 4236 at the 7.5 cent range. Now, the reason why I mention all of these is because Onyxcoin is a very, very small project. It's something that is pretty small. It's fairly illiquid, and so it can move absolutely wildly if we start to see whales jump into this project. Now, 1618 for the large projects is usually kind of a decent place to look. 2618 is maybe like okay, but it's getting a little bit more unattainable at that point. 3618 and 4236 generally for the larger projects are quite difficult to hit, particularly on a macro level. But for small projects like Onyxcoin, 4236 could even be just the beginning because of the level of pumps and moves we could see, particularly with things like Onyxcoin kind of slotting into that like XLM, XRP type of space. We can see XLM and XRP doing really, really well. XLM particularly having some insane moves over the past couple of weeks. And so, this is something that we could potentially see out of Onyxcoin. Of course, I am not guaranteeing that. I am not promising that. I'm not even saying it's possible, but I do think it is I'm not even saying it's likely, but I do think it is possible. Kind of getting my words mixed up there. Of course, I don't provide financial advice. I have no idea how to tell the future. That is not a skill that I've quite mastered yet. So this is just something where we can look at what we've seen is kind of general marks for, valuable information in the past, and then we can see. Now, of course, something like the 2618, 3618, 4236, any of those levels are going to be fairly, I would say, dependent on a very, very strong move throughout the alt market generally. And so that is why I wanted to talk a little bit about the state of the alt market at a more macro scale as well, because this does impact Onyxcoin very heavily. If you don't understand why, just stick with me. I'll explain why this makes sense and why it is helpful to understand from a more macro level. Now, before we do that though, if you are interested in trading Onyxcoin, of course, this is doable over here on BTCC. BTCC has been a fantastic partner of the channel. They're a great exchange and they have some really great bonuses if you do use my link in the description below. Wonderful sign up bonuses. The first being a 10% bonus on first time deposits, which is free money. So if you like free money, that's probably a good option for you. And then also the second one is the $10,055 or up to $10,055 in deposit and trading bonuses. So really, really great bonuses there. If you are looking to trade anyway, you might as well get something free for it because you're going to be doing it anyway. So if you are interested, like I said, check the links in the description below. I do also have that copy trading bot if you're looking for more of a sit back and relax type of way. This copy trades Bitcoin only, and it essentially like kind of grid trades it, but with a little bit of some more fancy stuff going on here. You can see the stats on this just absolutely insane. 27% ROI so far. 368% annualized ROI with a max drawdown of only about 6% and over 5 Sharpe ratio. All of these are insane stats for those of you who are into kind of the financial metrics and stats of things like this. So a really, really good option here if you are interested in kind of more of a set it and forget it type of approach. Now let's go ahead and let's move on to the Onyx news, because I do think that the Onyx news, we're seeing something that's very interesting here. The first one we can see here, Onyx points for XCN stakers on Ethereum, as well as the Onyx gas free wallet has now been executed, which is super cool. I want to explain a little bit more about what this means. So for those of you who are involved in crypto, particularly trading on chain, you will know that basically to do any sort of transaction, you have to sign it and you have to essentially pay for your own transactions. Well, there's something that's coming kind of more into the mainstream, I would say, is these gas free wallets. Think about doing the internet, right? If you were to go onto the internet and every time you loaded up this web page or that web page or this web page or this web page, you had to pay a fee every single time. And now you want to go from this tab to this tab. Well, now you got to pay a fee. The internet would basically be unusable, right? And so I think that's exactly what we're running into with crypto, is having to pay the fee or the gas fee every time we want to do literally anything is quite cumbersome for some clean like user experiences, right? And so what is starting to happen now is there's these gas-free things happening, Onyx being one to adopt it, where essentially third parties can sponsor the gas transaction. So for example, if I had an app and you came to my site and you needed to do all these different things interacting on chain, I could sponsor all of them, essentially pay for them for you. And then at that point, I would charge advertising or charge a subscription or charge basically how all websites make money today. It would be a similar type of model. So I think this is a really interesting type of concept. I think Onyx is doing a great thing by kind of moving to this gas-free ecosystem. I think it is going to allow them to kind of potentially ship products more to the masses and more to the mainstream, where they are more kind of web native and they understand how to move and interact through a web environment, and maybe not super familiar with how to move and interact through a crypto environment. So I think that this is really, really important. I think this is fantastic news, and I'm interested to see kind of how this ends up working out. Now, of course, we do also have the AI app from Onyxcoin. Haven't really seen too much, adoption or use or anything like that from there. We'll have to see kind of if that changes over time. Of course, quite literally the $1 million question in crypto is, can you bring users to your site? Can you get people to use your stuff? If the answer is no, of course, that is, obviously a bit of some headwinds for each individual project. So I will be watching very closely to see what Onyxcoin is able to do in terms of driving and retaining users. So moving on, I want to take a quick look, again, just super quick at the high level alt market. We can see here really, really green day happening right now. We can see the week and the month also green. Month got a couple reds here and there, but overall everything very, very green for everybody. So things looking quite nice here. The pump token did launch. It has done relatively well. It's 9% on the day. The week we have seen, a little bit of a move up, but it's honestly kind of been relatively flat. I think this is just because it launched at such a large market cap. There's not really too much of upside there, so we'll just have to see kind of how that kind of goes overall. So that is something that it will be keeping a very, very close eye on. Everything else in the crypto market looking pretty good. We can see, if we look at the market overview, things looking a little bit heated. We can see the market average sitting in strong right now, with more and more moving into the overbought region, as well as the fear and greed index sitting firmly in greed. We were getting very close to extreme greed. So it's good to see that we're kind of further away from that. The market's cooling off. We're not getting too hot too fast. And that is very, very good to see. We can also see open interest and volume just skyrocketing for Bitcoin. And this is kind of across the whole crypto space as well. We also can see on the total too. I did actually go over this in my earlier video in a little bit more detail. So if you are interested in kind of getting a cleaner breakdown here, you can go and take a look at that and check that out. Overall, I'm just going to take a super quick look at here. We have broken through this liquidity zone, which is really good to see. So that's, of course, good news. And then, of course, we have also broken through this ETH BTC really, really strong level of resistance here as well. I also go through this in a little bit more detail in my earlier video as well, if you're wanting to get a little bit more of a detailed breakdown of what's actually going on with alt season and what's actually going on with kind of the state of alts generally. Things are looking pretty good. I think we could be primed for a pretty nice move. It's basically impossible to say exactly when, right? It could happen right now. It might happen in a couple months from now. I don't know. But what it does seem is that we are starting to see that slow transition and that slow switch over to a more alt first market instead of a more Bitcoin first market, which is basically what we've been seeing for the past 2 to 3 years. So really good to start to see that switch happening. Again, anything can change on a dime. It is crypto. We do need to continue to see kind of the higher highs, higher lows, the structure, the confidence, the liquidity. All of this needs to continue to getting built up. Again, in kind of more macro news, we also have seen that rate cuts are probably on the horizon. So I do think that we are going to continue to see this get kicked into that region. So overall, things looking absolutely fantastic. I'm really pleased with what we've seen so far. I'm really pleased from what we've seen out of Onyxcoin. And I do think if it continues this level of performance, as we go and we continue to potentially go into a more alt-friendly environment, we might see Onyxcoin just do some absolutely wild numbers. So definitely going to be keeping a close eye. I, of course, am trading Onyxcoin. I'm always kind of looking to see, when good accumulation points are, things like that. So if you are interested, of course, you can do the same. Check the links in the description below. Leverage trading is not for beginners. So if you are a beginner, maybe try the demo account first before you, potentially get yourself in trouble. It just is risky. So just make sure that you understand what you're doing. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you have any comments, of course, drop those in the comment section below. And if you did find the information in this video useful, a like and a subscribe, of course, does really, really help me out. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.